Hello and welcome to Organisation Lesson 1. So our objective for this lesson is to identify the differences between cells, tissues, organs and organ systems. So your first task, I would like you to have a go at the starter questions and see what you can answer at this point in time. So can you give me an example of a specialised cell? Can you identify an important organ system within the body? And what is the main function of that organ system? And what organs is it made up of? Okay, so how is the body organised? So at the start we have cells. Cells are the basic units of life that can exist by itself. You have single-celled animals such as amoeba and protozoa, and we have single-celled plants such as algae. However, in multicellular organisms, groups of cells work together to form tissues. Groups of tissues can work together to form organs. And then groups of organs make up an organ system, which is responsible for carrying out a life process. So the life processes are remembered by Mrs. Gren. So you've got movement, respiration, sensing, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Okay, so all the organ systems in the human body link up or are responsible for one of those life processes. So what I would like you to do is to pause the PowerPoint here and answer the two questions. How is an organ formed, and what is the difference between a tissue and an organ? Okay, so let's have a look at our answers. So question 1 was, how is an organ formed? So an organ is a structure made up of different tissues that carries out a function. So for example, the heart pumps blood around the body, the kidney filters and cleans the blood, the eye detects light. An organ can have more than one function. For example, the liver carries out up to 1,000 functions in the body, from making certain chemicals to breaking down other chemicals, etc. So question 2, what is the difference between a tissue and an organ? A tissue is made out of similar cells, and an organ is made out of different tissues. Okay, so what is an organ system exactly? Well, an organ system is where many organs work together to carry out a common function or a life process. And the human body has lots of different organ systems. So what I would like you to do is to pause the PowerPoint here, and I would like you to Google or look up different examples of organ systems within the human body. Okay, so there are lots of different organ systems within the human body. We have the skeletal system, which is responsible for supporting the body and for aiding movement, along with the muscular system, which enables movement. We have the nervous system, which detects sensory information, so light, temperature, pressure, etc. And it also activates the body responses. We have the cardiovascular system, which is responsible for transporting oxygen and nutrients around the body. And we also have the endocrine system, which is responsible for secreting hormones and controlling various aspects and levels in the body, such as blood sugar level, water content, salt content, etc. And we also have the reproductive system. Okay, so for your next task, I would like you, from the selection of organs on your screen, select the ones you think make up the following organ system. So the digestive system, the respiratory system, and the water transport system. Now, the water transport system is found in plants. It is important to remember that plants are also made up of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. We will be looking at those in a bit more detail in a later lesson. Okay, so pause the PowerPoint here and see how you get on. Okay, so let's see how we got on. So the organs in the digestive system were the intestines, the gullet, which is also known as the esophagus, and the stomach. The organs in the respiratory system were the lungs and the trachea, also known as the windpipe. And then in the water transport system, we've got roots, we have a stem, and we have leaves. Okay, so your next task is to match up each of the following organ systems to their function. So you have the respiratory system, digestive system, circulatory system, skeletal system, nervous system, and endocrine system. So just a quick point, the circulatory system is also known as the cardiovascular system. So pause the PowerPoint here and match them up. Okay, so let's see how we got on. So the respiratory system moves air in and out of the lungs to control gas exchange between blood and the lungs. The digestive system is responsible for extracting and absorbing nutrients from food, removing waste and maintaining a water balance. The circulatory system, also known as the cardiovascular system, transports nutrients, waste, hormones and gases around the body. The skeletal system is responsible for movement. It protects and supports the body and organs. It also produces blood cells. The nervous system regulates behavior and responses to the environment, and the endocrine system regulates and maintains homeostasis by secreting hormones. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at specialized cells. So while there are trillions of cells in the human body, there are only approximately 220 types of cell. Now these cells have different features in order to help them carry out their function or their job. Okay, so the 4 cells we're going to have a look at today are red blood cells, sperm cells, nerve cells, and muscle cells. Okay, so red blood cells have no nucleus, and this makes more room for hemoglobin, which is the protein that carries oxygen. They are also described as having a biconcave shape, which means they have a little dimple on either side of the cell, and this increases the surface area so they can take in oxygen more quickly. Then we have sperm cells. Now the sperm cell's purpose is to find and fertilize an egg, so it needs to move. So in order to help it move, it has a tail, which is more correctly known as a flagella. Now, in order for the sperm cell to swim and find the egg, it needs a lot of energy. Now, energy is released during the process of respiration in an organelle called the mitochondria. So sperm cells typically have lots of mitochondria, so lots of respiration can be carried out. Moving on, we've then got nerve cells, which are also known as neurons. Now, neurons transport messages around the body, okay, via electrical signals. They are really long and thin to help the messages travel faster, and they also have a fatty sheath surrounding them to insulate this electrical signal, so a bit like the plastic layer around the cables on your phone charger, your laptop charger, etc. Okay, this keeps the electrical signal within the neuron so it gets to where it needs to be quickly and efficiently. Then we have muscle cells, which are arranged in fibers, which pull together to allow the fibers to contract. Now, because their main purpose is movement, they also have lots of mitochondria to release energy during respiration. Okay, so now's the time for a quick quiz. So have a go at these questions. So question number 1 is cells that have features so that they can do particular jobs are called what? Question 2, what substance do red blood cells carry around the body? Question 3, nerve cells can transmit electrical signals because they are what? 4, what is a feature of muscle cells? And question 5, what do sperm cells have that aids movement? So pause the PowerPoint here and have a go. Okay, so here are the answers. Cells that have a specific feature to suit their purpose are called specialized cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen. Nerve cells carry electrical signals so easily because they are long and thin and have insulation. Muscle cells have lots of mitochondria, and a sperm cell has a flagella, not a tail, to aid movement. Okay, so to finish, I would like you to have another go at the 3 questions that I asked you at the start of the lesson. So can you give me an example of a specialized cell? Can you identify an important organ system in the body? And can you identify the main function of that organ system and what organs it is made up of? So if you pause the PowerPoint here, I will go through my suggestions for some answers in a moment. Okay, so an example of a specialized cell, you could have chosen a muscle cell, a red blood cell, a sperm cell, a nerve cell. There are plenty of others, including plenty of plant specialized cells, which we will look at in later lessons. Okay, so question 2, can you identify an important organ system within the body? Again, there are many you could choose from. Just a few are the respiratory system, which is comprised of the lungs and the trachea. You could have had the cardiovascular system, which is the heart and all the blood vessels, the skeletal system, which is made up of bones, or the muscular system, which is all the muscles and ligaments and tendons in the body. So what is the main function of the organ system, and what organs is it made up of? So remember, the function of organ systems links back to a life process. So remembering the acronym Mrs. Gren, that's either movement, respiration, sensing, growth, reproduction, excretion, or nutrition. So your organ system should link up to one of those. And the organs it is made up of really depends on what organ system you have chosen. So just as a quick example, the nervous system is comprised of the brain and nerves and neurons all around the body. You can have the muscle system, which is made up of muscles, tendons and ligaments. The skeletal system is made up of bones, etc., etc. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Head on over to Educake to have a go at the quiz on there. Thank you for listening, and take care.